comes to balancing your hormones, there are key ones that are real important. That's what you're looking for here when it comes to hormone balance. The vegetables, and particularly what I call the brassica family vegetables. And I tell my patients all the time I'm working with that are struggling with hormonal imbalances, or maybe they have what they toxins, chemical toxins in their body that are affecting their hormones. And that's one of the things I mentioned, the chemicals a moment ago. There are specific chemicals.
Welcome back to the Cory Lee Show, guys. This is a part 2 to an episode we did back in January with Phil Carson. Phil Carson came on and we talked about the root cause of illness. We talked about healthcare versus sick care, and that was a powerful, powerful episode. And honestly, Phil, when we released that, we had more views on that YouTube video than I've had on any other YouTube video for a while in the first week or so. And so very popular content, and you're a popular guy, I've come to find out as well. So you do great work. And I just want to say welcome back to the Cory Lee Show, Phil.
Yeah, well, thank you, Cory. I appreciate that so much. And I appreciate you and what you do and the impact you're making out there in the world as well. I got a lot of great comments on that, and found out there's a lot of people watching your show that I didn't know was watching it. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. I was actually at a soccer match last night, and a guy came up to me, and he was talking about how much value you have added to him, that you actually helped raise him some. And so anyway, good stuff. Well, I wanted to jump right in because there's a couple of things we had talked about doing. My wife and I had reached out to you, and you were helping us with, we did some blood work, and you went through that some with us. And if we have time today, I'd really like to dive into some of those type things and what you're looking at when you see some of these metrics and some of these numbers. But one of the things I wanted to ask you was more of a follow-up to our previous conversation is there's something you talk about, healthcare versus sick care. And being in the medical field as well, there's a lot of things that people like to label as healthcare because it's trendy and it can sell stuff. And so I would love to hear from you. What are some things that are labeled as healthcare, but in reality, it's just like, let's put a Band-Aid over the problem and let's not solve the real problem? What are some of those things you see?
Yeah. Well, it's everyday things that I deal with on a day-to-day basis with people that reach out to me that are that have been diagnosed with a particular condition. Most time, maybe it's hypothyroidism, maybe it's high blood pressure issues, cholesterol issues, and they've gone to the doctor. They've been diagnosed. They've gotten a handful of prescriptions sometimes. Sometimes it's one or two, sometimes it's a handful, and told that they got to take this, this medication, and that's what's called healthcare. But in reality, it's sick care, because the system that we have today is designed to manage disease, not to help reverse it, not to help cure, so to speak, but manage it. And you can even hear this in the commercials on TV. A lot of times you're listening to these commercials that are running every 5 minutes or so. Seems like on TV there's a drug commercial after drug commercial, and I hate that. That's unfortunate. But anyway, they even talk about it in the commercials. Managing your condition, managing your disease, and that's what these drugs are designed to do, to manage, and not to reverse, but to manage. And I have so many people that come to me, they're looking for healthcare. They're looking for a way, what can I do different? How can I change? What can I do so that I don't have to take this medication the rest of my life?
Yeah. It's interesting. You will listen to a commercial or something that says manage your health care, right? Yeah, manage your thing, like there is no reversible thing. And so, so if somebody comes to you, what are some things that you do? Like, is it only something that I can manage? Can it be reversed, or like what? Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how do you help people with that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, when we're talking about chronic diseases, chronic diseases are what we're talking about mostly here, and what people are dealing with. Things like diabetes, things like heart disease, things like cholesterol issues, the hypothyroidism that I mentioned a minute ago. Those are things that I deal with a lot. Another one I would say probably I deal with a lot of people with hormonal issues as well, and their hormones are out of balance. And those are things that can all be reversed, so to speak, or corrected, or put back in balance. If something's out of balance, you want to try to restore balance, and that's what is happening a lot of time. And there are root causes. These conditions, these diseases, have root causes, and there's something called root cause medicine. There's something called functional medicine that addresses the root cause. That functional medicine, and that's what I'm considered a functional medicine wellness coach. I'm working with people, trying to help them figure out why they have this condition in the first place. What caused it? What's behind it? What I need to do different in my life. What lifestyle changes can I make? Lifestyle medicine, that's another term that's out there, and that you don't hear a lot about, because we have this system that, unfortunately, and I'm not faulting doctors. I love doctors. I got a lot of great doctor friends that are great doctors, and they are awesome at what they do. And but today's doctors are being trained in medical school primarily to prescribe medications for a person's condition. And there's this unfortunate system out there of Sickcare where it's like, I call it a merry-go-round. Sometimes a person gets on this merry-go-round, and they got to go see this doctor for this. They got to go see another doctor for this, and they run it. They're being rotated around from one specialist to another to treat these different conditions with medications, and not enough is being said about lifestyle. And what can they do? What lifestyle changes can they make to maybe not have to take this medication, and maybe correct the root cause, or maybe restore balance to their body? What can we look at in the blood work, like you mentioned a moment ago, to see if there's some kind of deficiency there? Maybe there's a mineral deficiency. Maybe there's a vitamin deficiency that can be the root cause of these problems. But in our society today, in our culture today, I would venture to say most of illness, most of these chronic diseases are lifestyle related. They're lifestyle choices that we make a lot of times. We choose to make a lot of times. We're people grow up and they're in situations or cultural situations where they don't really have much of a choice. They've got to eat what they have, and unfortunately, it's the food, and that is a lot of times the major root cause of people's health conditions. And I'm thankful that that is being brought to light more and more now, especially with the recent election, the movement of calling "Let's Make America Healthy Again." What RFK, Mr. Kennedy, is aspiring to do, and helping people and helping bring light to what's going on in the food industry, what's going on in the drug industry, and changes that people can make that can lead them down a better path, and not one of managing their disease, but one of hopefully potentially reversing that disease.
Yeah. I love that. What about, you had mentioned like having hormonal issues and those kind of things. What are some simple things people could do that maybe, without looking at very specifics, but what are some things that people can do, simple lifestyle choices that people can do to get their hormones back in balance?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it varies with a person depending on what stage of life they're in,
Yeah.
where they're at in life. Like for you for example, you're about to turn 40, and I hope you don't mind me telling people that.
Come on, you can keep going. I'm good. Man, hey, Phil, I feel like I'm 21, so I'm good. I'm
There you
good.
go. There you go. Yeah. Well, I'm about to turn 65, and I feel like I'm 25,
Yeah,
35.
right.
I don't feel 65, and that's and we each feel that way because of lifestyle choices that we make.
Yeah.
To exercise regularly, to eat healthier, and those kind of things. And that's what people, can do. That's when it comes to hormones, that's the most important thing right there. And keeping your hormones in good balance is exercise or physical activity. A lot of people don't like the word exercise. So staying physically active is a more friendly word to a lot of people. Physical
Mhm.
activity, and then eating healthier, eating the right kinds of foods, eating and staying away from foods that will disrupt that balance. And see, no matter what your age is, the foods that we put in our body can directly affect our hormones because of the types of foods that we're eating, what we have in our in our culture today. These processed foods that are loaded with sometimes hormones. And you can look at in the poultry industry and see what happens to chickens now, and
Yeah.
how they make a chicken breast 3 or 4 or 5 times the size it used to be 50 years ago, and and what they're injecting these birds with to make the bigger portion, bigger meat, so to speak, or bigger breast. And we're eating those kind of things, and we're getting these hormones in our body. We're getting these chemicals in our body that directly affect the hormones. So that's one of the biggest things that help you avoid these foods, avoid these chemicals that can directly affect your hormones. And I think that's why we see today, we see young girls, particularly going into puberty, way younger than they were doing, 2 or 3 decades ago, or maybe longer than that. When I was growing up, a 12-year-old, 10, 11, 12-year-old girl, didn't look like some of them do now.
Yeah.
And so I think the hormones and the chemicals in the foods that we're eating and people are eating has a direct effect on hormone balance. And so that's a key thing. And that's something that I encourage people to look at and think about what you're putting in your body. And then also on the fitness side of things, it directly affects hormone balance. And particularly when it comes to us men, we want to make sure we're maintaining muscle. We're building muscle if possible, because that can help improve testosterone levels.
Tell them
And
what you told me the testosterone muscle is.
yeah, your leg muscles are your
Leg muscle.
testosterone muscles. So keeping strong, healthy legs, and it's not just important for testosterone, especially as we age, in men and women. You want strong, healthy legs for prevention of falls.
Yeah.
Because the older we get, our legs get weaker, we get more unstable. It's easier to fall.
Yeah.
And statistics show, and I share this with my women clients all the time. Statistics show that a person, particularly a woman, if they fall after the age of 65, if they have a fall, they 50% of them don't ever walk again.
Hmm.
And I don't necessarily mean not able to stand up and move, but they don't fully walk normally again. They're on a walker, in a wheelchair. They don't have full mobility anymore. If with a fall, and so keeping your leg muscles strong, keeping all your muscles strong, but particularly the leg muscles as we age, extremely important. And my mom was one of those statistics. She fell in her 60s and broke a hip, and she never was able to fully walk again, and ended up, a few years later in a wheelchair.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So, Phil, what I heard you say on the hormone side there is really it comes down to the food that we eat and the exercise. So, two things right there. Our food being pumped up with all these hormones and injected with all this kind of stuff. And I would love to hear from you. Maybe what are a handful of your favorite foods that you feel like, or what are we looking for in our food? Because I this is something that really interested in me that I've studied for a while. It's come kind of natural to me a little bit now, but there was a time when I was just starting to become more aware of the food we were eating. I was in college, and we went to Wendy's. And all right, Phil, and I was going to eat better. I was going to eat healthier.
Right. Yeah.
So I got me a potato instead of fries, and I said, "Hey, put me some cheese on there, and put some of that squirt cheese on there too." So,
Yeah.
and that was going to be healthier than my French fries, you know?
Oh,
And
yeah.
so anyway, but I know there's some kind of misconceptions out there too. What are some things I want to be looking for? Hey guys, I hope you are enjoying this episode of the Cory Lee Show. Y'all, I am on a mission to build leaders and to transform culture. So if you're looking for a speaker who speaks directly to the heart, a mentor to come alongside you and your team, or if you're in a position where you're looking for a personal coach who embraces where you are and also believes in who you could become, then I would be honored to walk this path with you. Simply reach out to me on my email at Cory@CoryLeeLeadership.com. Look, let's make your vision a reality. Contact me, and together we'll navigate the path from aspiration to achievement. Your transformation, it starts now. As I'm searching for food that's not injected with all this stuff, what are some of your handful of food you recommend?
Yeah. Well, I call it real food. And particularly fruits and vegetables, which most people don't get enough of. We're eating way too much processed food. If you want nutrients in your body that can help in multiple ways in improving hormone balance, and not just that, but health in general, you want real foods, God-made foods. Not processed foods like, you hear this, and you've probably heard this a lot, and people hear it all, shop the perimeter of the grocery store, not the aisles. In the aisles is where you find packaged processed foods mostly. In the perimeter, you've got the produce, you've got dairy, you've got meats and those kind of things, fresh meats, fresh fish. Yeah, you just think about when you walk in the grocery store, just picture the walls, and most grocery stores, we walk into the healthiest part of the store, and that's the produce section. I know at least the one I'll shop at here in Tupelo. I walk into the main entrance, and it goes right into the produce department. And so that's where you're going to find the best choices of food, raw fruits, vegetables, and eat those on a regular basis. When it comes to balancing your hormones, there are key ones that are real important. If that's what you're looking for here, when it comes to hormone balance, the vegetables, and particularly what I call the brassica family vegetables. And I tell my patients all the time I'm working with that are struggling with hormonal imbalances, or maybe they have chemical toxins in their body that are affecting their hormones. And that's one of the things I mentioned, the chemicals a moment ago. There are specific chemicals that are in our environment that we're exposed to that are called xenoestrogens, and they mimic estrogen in the body, and can cause disruption of the balance of our hormones in particular. But there are specific vegetables that can help restore that balance. And those are called brassica family vegetables. They're also called cruciferous. And there's, unfortunately, the ones that most people don't really like or won't eat, particularly, especially young people, turn their nose up at them. We're talking about broccoli, We're talking about Brussels sprouts. We're talking about kale and cabbage. Those kind of things that you won't see a lot of young people eating.
Yeah.
And but those are things that I try to eat on a regular basis because they're very rich in nutrients to begin with, but they're also contain what they call phytochemicals that help improve our detox pathways in our body, particularly in the liver.
Yeah.
And so they can help you in different ways. One, in helping with detoxification, but also in helping with balancing out the hormones,
Yeah.
particularly estrogen levels.
Interesting. Well, I told you I wanted to ask you this question, and it's kind of a sidetrack right here, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on the weight loss surgery and the band and all that kind of stuff. Just your thoughts on that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I've worked with quite a few people over the years that have chosen to go down that path of having one of the different. There's a variety of different types of these surgeries. There's bypass, there's bands, there's different techniques and that they use to help a person to lose weight. A person that's morbidly obese usually is the ideal patient for these types of surgeries or procedures. And usually the people who go and have this done, they've got a lot of chronic issues going on too. They've got high blood pressure, they've got diabetes, they've got high cholesterol issues, all attributed to the obesity. And so to save their life a lot of times, prolong their life, this is a choice that people make. And there's a lot of risk involved in it, and as well. And I've actually known a few people that had these surgeries done, and unfortunately, because of complications, they didn't get that extended life they were looking to get.
Mm.
And it's very, very unfortunate, but it happens. And so I'm not a big fan of these types of surgeries. I'm more of I'm a lifestyle coach. I want people to change. I want people to make lifestyle changes. I want people to do it naturally and not have to go down that path. I understand that people get in situations sometimes where if they want to continue to live, they got to do something. And I'm not condemning anybody for making those kind of choices, those kind of decisions, but I'd rather see a person do it the right way, in my opinion, what I call the right way, and let's do it naturally, make the lifestyle changes. Because what I see, Cory, a lot of times with people, and I've known several people that have gone down that path, they've gone and had some type of surgery or procedure done, and they'll lose the weight and they'll lose it rapidly, but you see them 2-3 years later, they've gained most of it back, sometimes more, because they didn't make the lifestyle changes that they should have made. And some people use it. It ends up being a Band-Aid, so to speak. You got to make the lifestyle changes. Regardless if you decide to have a surgery or a lap band or whatever procedure you feel is best for you or that's recommended to you, you got to make the lifestyle changes. You got to change what you're putting in your body every day, because if you don't, the chronic diseases are going to come back. The weight's going to come back, and I see that happen way too often.
Yeah,
and it's unfortunate. So, in my opinion, the better way is to do it slowly over time and make the lifestyle changes. Get the help you need to do that. And some, and here's the thing. Here's one of the problems that people have. A lot of times they try to do things on their own, and they think, well, and then they fail. And they put pressure on themselves and say, I can't do this. We need help, and sometimes having a coach, having somebody on, in your corner that's rooting you on and saying, hey, yeah, you can do this. Don't stop. Don't give up. Keep going. And somebody that can give you the right advice and give you the right encouragement on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And that's something I do, with people and help people with. And, it's It's an investment to have somebody to help you in that regard, or put somebody on your healthcare team, that so to speak. And I'll talk about that a lot. Having that team, you need your doctor. You need a physical therapist. You need a nurse practitioner or whatever. Have a team. Have people that are on your team, but also having that coach on your team sometimes can make all the difference in the world in helping you stay on track when you've got a goal or something you want to achieve, something you want to reach for your health. And you got that why, so to speak, out there that I keep in front of me all the time. Is why I stay healthy. Having that why that keeps me going and keeps me pushing myself to make the right choices and do the right thing.
Yeah. Totally agree with you. I think me and you're on the same page there. Not a fan one bit. I've seen people same as you, and then I've seen people who have done it and they've tried to stick with it and they start to lose their teeth and their skin looks different, and you're like, what is going on here? And it's just not getting the nutrients that
Malnourished.
So, anyway, interesting. And so one of the things we wanted to do in this podcast, I know we've only got about 10 minutes or so, is that my wife and I, we sat down with you, and you sent us to get our blood work. We went and got our blood work, and then you got it back, and you went through this with us. And I'd love just to kind of go through. I'm going to share mine. I know for some of you, you're listening to this on audio. Really encourage you, if you want to watch this part, to go to YouTube and you can check it out. I'm going to share my little results right here. And Phil, you got the freedom to go through it however we want right here. I'm going to share my screen, and let's see here. There we go. And so, nope, false hope. Sorry. Where'd it go? There we go. Let me do this. Okay. Can you see that now?
Yeah, I see it good.
All right. And so these are some of my levels here. And so as you look at this, what are some of the things that you're looking at?
Yeah. Well, this is what's called an NMR lipid profile with insulin resistance markers. And this is a fairly new lipid panel that was developed by the Cleveland Heart Lab at Cleveland Clinic. It's been around for 5-6 years now, maybe a little bit longer. And this, in my opinion, should be the standard lipid test that should be done. The one that's still being done by most providers is an old lipid panel that was developed 30-something years ago. And it doesn't give you the precise information that this one does as far as determining your true cardiovascular disease risk. And these are all different numbers. And what they also call this a fractionated lipid panel, because it's looking at fractions of lipids, particularly the LDL fractions and the HDL fractions. But you see high and one low here. You see 3 highs and 1 low. And a person looks at that and says, "Oh my God, my cholesterol's horrible. I'm going to die. I'm gonna have a heart attack or a stroke." But no, you got to look at the whole picture.
Yeah,
and that's why I encourage people to do. Look at the whole picture.
Right here. But when we sat down and you looked at this, you said if a normal, healthcare provider had seen this, they would try to put me on some kind of medication. And so you're saying look at the whole profile.
Yeah, because primarily what's looked at is what's on an old 30-year-old lipid panel, and that's the two things you see here: LDL-C, which shows high, and total cholesterol, which shows high. Now, that's based upon the standard lipid panel that was developed 30-something years ago, and that's what jumps out at people and say, "Oh, your cholesterol is way too high. We got to get you on a statin drug. We got to get you on some kind of medication. We got to get this down." But you got to look at everything else here. You got to look at the HDL. You got to look at the triglycerides. And one in particular here that's more important than any of these other numbers on here is the fraction, LDL fraction, called small LDL. And I'll explain some on that in a minute. But looking at your standard numbers of LDL-C, the calculated LDL 153, total cholesterol 233, those numbers are considered way high based up on the reference intervals, particularly with total cholesterol. With the LDL-C, when you're looking at the reference interval with the NMR profile, it's considered borderline. And ideally, though, you do want it to be optimal or above optimal, not borderline, not high. And with total cholesterol, this one is less relevant here, because here's what, cholesterol has been made out to be an enemy. And I could talk about this for hours, but cholesterol has been made out to be an enemy, but we can't live without cholesterol. And we've been talking about hormones. That's where hormones come from. If you look at what's called the hormone cascade in our body, the hormone pathway, how our body is designed to make hormones, it starts with cholesterol. And what we see happening with these cholesterol medications is people, they're driving their cholesterol too low, and they can't make hormones anymore. They don't have sufficient cholesterol to make sufficient hormones. Let me put it that way.
Interesting.
And and so that's the problem. And the other problem is our brain. One of the major components of the brain tissue is cholesterol. And when we're lowering our cholesterol below 150, which I see that all the time, it's very unfortunate. We're affecting the brain. We're affecting our hormone capacity for our body to make hormones. But anyway, I don't get concerned about that. I look at these numbers so much as I do, what's the HDL? What's your triglycerides? These are two key components right here that can help determining your overall risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Ideally, they say the best ideal ratio is a 2-to-1 ratio of HDL to triglycerides. 2-to-1. And you have less than a 1-to-1 ratio here. And so if if your triglycerides were 300, you got a problem. But yours are 52. I rarely ever see anybody with triglycerides that low. Most people, their triglycerides are 100 and way over 100. 150 is the max in the reference range. Should be below 150. That's what they say, and that's the ideal place for it to be. But I see 300s, I see 400s a lot of times. That's dangerous. That's more of a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. It's also a big time indicator for insulin resistance issues. When you have high triglycerides and low HDL, your HDL is fantastic at 71. Anything above 39 is considered great. And 71 in a male, I rarely ever see that. I'm happy if I see men with HDL above 40 at all. And then you're looking at the HDL particles that you see as low there. Now, this is an important factor here. HDL is your protective cholesterol. That's the one that helps protect you. That's one that helps counter the LDL, so to speak, which is LDL is considered your more dangerous cholesterol, the one that's causing the problem. And we're going to talk about that small here in a minute. But when you see a low HDL, dietary changes can help with that a lot of times. And we talked about that a moment ago, what you should be eating, things that you can eat to help improve your hormonal numbers or hormonal markers and balance. Well, you can do the same thing with your lipids here. And when I see a low HDL, person needs to be eating more good fats a lot of times. Not eating enough nuts, seeds, avocados, those kind of things. Olive oil, coconut oil, what's the other one? Avocado oil. The 3 fruit oils I recommend to people. More of those in your diet can help bring that HDL up when it's too low. Your overall HDL is great, but the particles, the small HDL particles, are too low. Then the big factor here, the biggest thing that I look at on here is what is that small LDL? And yours actually, of course, the lowest one I've ever seen. Yours below 90. usually I'm seeing a small LDL particles. They're over 1,000,
Wow.
2,000 sometimes, which is horrible because the small LDL, what research is showing, is the main culprit when it comes to plaque buildup in the arteries, cholesterol buildup in the arteries, because it's the small LDL particles that fill those cracks, so to speak, in our blood vessels that appear when we have inflammation in the blood vessels. And that is what, if you'll start researching, start looking, you're going to find all this information out there on inflammation and cholesterol problems, inflammation and heart disease. Inflammation is the main factor. And when we have inflammation in our blood vessels, it weakens the blood vessel walls, can damage the blood vessel walls, and this is small LDL particles that repair the damage, and they begin to build up over time. So if you have a lower number of small LDL particles, your risk is much lower.
Yeah.
Bottom line. All right.
And that is,
But
and I know we're getting close right there, and I think that I find that very fascinating, and that was just a small sample, right? Like I
yeah,
had that was just a small sample of other things. There are a lot of other things you went step by step with us, and one of the things I remember you saying was that we don't eat enough salt. There was a lack of sodium in
yeah,
there and in ours. And so let me ask you one last question. So you sat down with people, and this is one of the first steps. They go get their blood work. Why is this step important in helping people make lifestyle changes?
yeah, yeah. Because you can see so much, in the blood work, and these tests are typically done every day in clinics. Every day people go in, they're seeing the doctor or whatever, they're drawing the blood, they're getting these test results back. But here's a comment I give people all the time: nobody's ever explained all this to me.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that I do, and I love doing. It's one of the services I provide, is going through, walking a person through their blood work and explaining everything to them and explaining, okay, this is what this means. If this one's too low, here's what you can do to fix that. Here's what this means if it's too low, or if this is too high, here's what it can mean. And there is interpretation. And a lot of times people are handed this blood work back, or they're saying they don't ever even see it. A lot of people do. They get a call from the doctor's office and say, "Well, everything was fine, everything looks normal. You're good. There's no problem." But that's not always the case, because you can be in that reference range, but if you're outside the optimal range, and that's something that's not looked at. What's the optimal range of your cholesterol? What's the optimal range of your red blood cells, or your hematocrit, or what's the optimal range of your white blood cells, your neutrophils, all those kind of things, or your testosterone levels? What's the optimal range? We're not looking at that. We're just looking at what the broad reference range is, and people are going by that. And I see this with thyroid issues all the time. They're looking at the reference range, but and they're saying, well, we don't see anything wrong. Everything's normal. But the person's got all these symptoms related to hypothyroidism, but their TSH, a marker used for checking the thyroid, it's normal. It's in that reference range, but they're not in the optimal range. And so they've got all the symptoms going on, but they've been told it's not their thyroid. It's got to be something else, when actually it is their thyroid.
Yeah. Well, I find that very fascinating. Highly encourage anybody that's interested in this to reach out to Phil. And we sat down, Kim and I both did, and went step by step through that. And we've just made some for us, I found just some minor changes in things have gone a long way, and even gaining clarity. You said something that Kim has said a lot. She's gets her blood work and everything's like, well, this looks good. It's like, well, this is kind of borderline right here, but what does that even mean? And so, and it's just help us to make better decisions. And so for anybody who's listening or watching on YouTube and they're like, hey man, I want to reach out to that guy, right? How do they connect with you, Phil?
Yeah. The easiest way, just go to my website, philcarsonwellness.com. And, the contact, links are there. They can schedule a discovery call with me, a free discovery call. It doesn't cost anything. I'm happy to talk with anybody. provide a free 30-minute discovery call with people who just want to learn and see what maybe they can do to make some better choices for their health.
Awesome. Well, Phil, that was good stuff. Truly appreciate you being willing to come back on and give more of your time and more of your wisdom. Highly encourage you guys to reach out to him. We'll have the link in the show notes below. And so, Phil, thanks for coming on. Thank you guys for taking a listen. I know this has added value to you. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can stay up to date. And feel free to share this with other people. It's just basic information that I feel like that needs to get out and move away from sick care to true wellness. And that I think that's Phil's mission there. And so thank you guys. Hope you have a great day and God bless.
Yeah, thank you, Cory.
3, 2, 1. Okay.
Thanks for joining me today. I hope I have added value to you. And if you have found value in this episode, let me know. Drop a comment and make sure you share with a friend or family member. See you next episode.